Oh, there's that Crescent City feeling, and the legend of Kid Ory and Bud Scott, and Charlie DeVore and Bill Evans and their New Orleans jazz band making the music. As you may or may not know, the band with Charlie DeVore and sitting in for Bill Evans is scheduled in the months of October, November, and December for Sunday matinees from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Dakota Bar and Grill. All hail, you traditional jazz fans. We're preserving it Mondays, or rather Sundays, 4 until 8. And in charge of the music and programming all the way, along with a great lineup, is one Charlie DeVore. Welcome once again to Minnesota Public Radio, Charlie. Good to have you there.
Oh, I tell you, at my age, Leigh, it's good to be anywhere.
I see. Well, just as long as you don't hang out.
No.
Okay. At any rate, this Sunday's matinee is going to be flavored, I believe, with some Kid Ory. Is that right?
Yes, Bill Evans, unfortunately, wasn't able to participate in these 5 Sundays at the Dakota. So we called upon the auspices of Russ Hall, my old sidekick from 25 years of the Hall Brothers out at the Emporium of Jazz. And Russ's favorite trombonist certainly is one of ours, Edward Kid Ory. So the thought occurred that a whole Sunday devoted to Kid Ory's music, using that as a theme, might be kind of a fun excursion for Russ and the rest of us. So that's what we're going to try to do tomorrow. Although that tune you just heard, Get Out of Here,
yes,
that's going to be the last tune that we play.
So we have to stay for the rest, for the complete performance, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, you might tell us, the listeners out here, a little bit about Kid Ory. He certainly was a part of the Crescent City scene, but somehow or another landed in Los Angeles, didn't he?
Yes, Kid Ory was born in a community not far from New Orleans way back on December 25th of 1886. He had a very popular band in New Orleans from 1912 to 1919, and his doctor said that all this humidity down here in New Orleans is killing you, so he advised Ory to find a more arid climate. So Ory went out to California. And there were other New Orleans musicians out there, and he brought a few along with him as well, particularly the trumpet player Thomas Mutt Carey. So he really established New Orleans music at a very early age as far as the history of the music is concerned out in California, out in Los Angeles.
Well, certainly he also moved up to at least in performance, up to the Bay City area, San Francisco and Oakland.
Yep.
And helped inspire some of the musicians in that area as well as in L.A.
That's exactly right. Yeah, he had a very popular band from 1919 through around 1921. His band had an excellent reputation out there. In 1922. Kid Ory led a band. It was called either Kid Ory Sunshine Orchestra or had another wild name, the Spike Hughes and their Pods of Pepper, I believe.
You did say Pods of Pepper, right? Okay.
Yeah. It was the Spikes brothers, actually, that were involved in that enterprise. But so as a result, in June of 1922, Ory recorded, and that was the first time an African-American band played jazz on records. The original Dixieland Jazz Band in 1917 was a white band from New Orleans, so it took 5 years for Kid Ory's band to record, and the two sides in particular are very, very good from June of 1922. Ory's Creole trombone and a blues called the Society Blues. They recorded 4 other tunes that same month, backing up some cabaret singers. But those 2 tunes were strictly instrumental, and most historians view those as the first by an African American band to play jazz.
Charlie DeVore is talking with us, and he and his organization along with the spirit of Bill Evans, are presenting matinees at the Dakota Bar and Grill, 4 to 8 p.m. in St. Paul, Minnesota, Bandana Square. The first Sunday went by. That was October 20th, and it was a sellout. And tomorrow, November 17th, the matinee hits the air at 4 o'clock. Charlie, you might just introduce us to some of the people in the band in case we don't have a program.
Yeah, okay. Leigh, this will be the identical lineup that we had on October 20th, which includes, as I mentioned, Russ Hall on the trombone. Our clarinetist is young Tony Bailiff, who's in his mid-30s. That's very young by our standards, considering we're all in our late 60s and 70s. So Tony is a clarinetist, and the pianist, once again, is Mike Polad, without the H in his last name. Doggy Berg on drums, Bob Andrews on string bass, and our good friend David McCurdy will be stopping by to play guitar and banjo on a few selected tunes. Mostly guitar.
And the cornetist?
The cornetist is yours truly.
You're guilty.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
Okay.
The culprit. The culprit in the crowd.
Well, I know that you'll document this afternoon, and we'll have a number one review historically of one very important player, Edward Kid Ory.
Yeah, thanks, Leigh. You know, one of the things about Ory is I think he was the person that really developed that tailgate style of playing, perhaps better than anyone. On those wonderful recordings, he was out in California in 1925, but he got a call from I think Lillian Hardin Armstrong, Louis Armstrong's wife, to participate in the Hot 5 recordings that started up in November of that year. So he went to Chicago to join his other colleagues to do that, and while he was there, he really participated in some of the great traditional jazz recordings of the period. He worked with King Oliver and his Dixie Syncopators, a large band. They only used one trombonist in that band, and Kid Ory was the trombonist. And then Jello Roll Morton used him for some of his very greatest recordings under the Red Hot Pepper label. So Ory was everybody's first choice because he had mastered that style of trombone playing, most closely associated with New Orleans and referred to as tailgate, because back in New Orleans, this is kind of a legendary thing. But so many bands paraded around in the city on carts, usually advertising a dance or advertising a prize fight or whatever. And obviously, you couldn't get a piano on these carts because they were horse-drawn, and the slide of the trombone could poke a guy's eye out, so they always stuck him at the very end of the cart or the tailgate of the cart. So that kind of style of trombone playing has been called tailgate because of where the trombonist is located on these horse-drawn carts down in New Orleans.
Well,
so
I'm glad
kind
you
of a
gave us
legendary
those.
story, but it really is true. There's been a lot of musicians that have attested to that.
Well, I'm glad that you gave us, some historic background. I know that tomorrow at 4, there'll be more.
Yep, and we promise that Russ Hall will not poke anybody's eyes out.
Well, that's good. Peace. Peace, Charlie. We'll meet you on stand tomorrow, 4 o'clock.
Sounds great.
Bandana Square, going New Orleans at the Dakota Bar and Grill in a wonderful matinee.
Thank you so much, Leigh. I tell you the truth, I can hardly wait.
Well,
I might even go down and start practicing right now.
Well, I'm glad that we stimulate you in every way possible.
Absolutely.
Charlie DeVore and his New Orleans band tomorrow, Bandana Square, Dakota Bar and Grill, for a matinee reviewing New Orleans